Everyone, Garrett here from Naked and Famous Denim. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be showing you guys how to clean your boots because of course boots are raw denim adjacent. And we're going to be using our Canadian Beeseal products that we have right here. But before we get into it, don't forget, hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's go over what you're going to need before we get started. Of course, you need a pair of boots or leather shoes. We have here Beeseal saddle soap. We don't currently stock this at Tate & Yoko, but if you want us to, let us know down in the comments. We've got also Canadian Beeseal conditioner and protector here. I have a bowl to put some water in. I have a soft sponge, an old sponge, a horsehair brush, a few rags, and a couple toothbrushes. All right, so the first step is actually we just need to take this over to the sink and give it a good rinse and get any dust, dirt, and debris off it. Okay, so step one, I just like to rinse off the boots with some warm water, not too hot. Cold water is probably fine too, but personally I just like warm water because it's nicer on my hands. Get as much of the dirt and dust, any debris off that you can just with the water. Here in Montreal, we have a lot of salt on the road, so salt likes to accumulate on the outsoles and the midsoles, sometimes on the leather, so I always give my shoes a little rinse. And we're gonna fill up our bowl right now with a little bit of water as well. Okay, so we're back. The boot has been rinsed off. I'm gonna first start by just undoing the instep strap here. By the way, this is a boot from John Lofgren, bootmaker in Horween Black Chrome XL. I believe you can get them from our friends over at Blue Owl. This is not sponsored, but anyways, just in case you're curious, because I'm sure someone's gonna comment down below. Okay, so first up, I'm gonna take the saddle soap here, and I'm gonna get started just with the sponge. This is an old sponge. I like to use older sponges because they're kind of softened up. Get just a little bit of water on it, and using the yellow side, I prefer the yellow side. We're just gonna get a little bit of saddle soap here and just start rubbing it around. I prefer to use the yellow side, not the green side. Sometimes these Scotch-Brite pads can be a little bit too rough on the green side. And if you use that, if you accidentally rub too much on the midsole or certain parts of leather, you can actually kind of rub away the finish or the dye. So I try not to do that. Just get a good lather going on here. And of course I get the midsole as well. Try to get in to around the welt. Sometimes I like to put my hand in the boot just so you can move it around and manipulate it easily. If you find that your soap is kind of dissipating or bubbling, sometimes you just need a little bit more water, a little bit more soap. Vinny, when you come a little bit closer, get a few, no, just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Get some detail shots. Now, I of course like to clean the shaft as well, but I find the shaft doesn't really get as dirty as the lower part of the boot, so I don't go as crazy on that part. A little bit more water. Personally, I don't clean my boots too often. These probably get cleaned maybe once or twice a year, depending kind of on the seasons and what I'm doing. But you'll know if your boots are getting dirty, they're getting muddy, they're getting like concrete on them. If your boots are really dirty, then you'll probably have to do this more often, but it's kind of up to you. You don't really need to be doing this every month if you're just wearing your boots around town or around the office, that kind of thing. In fact, if you do too much and you over oil your boots, that can kind of mess up the leather a bit. So okay, now I'm going to grab the horsehair brush, and this is going to kind of help me get into all the cracks, the nooks and crannies around the welt, around the edges of the leather. So just a little bit of water on there, a little more saddle soap. Again, you can kind of use whatever brushes you want, but personally, I like to use brushes that are a little bit on the softer side because I don't really want to scratch or wear off any of the finish, especially on the midsole. And this is a T-core leather too, so if you do scratch it too much, if you're too abrasive on it, it will start to rub away some of that black. See a nice lather going on there with the brush. I'll get the instep strap there too. And I find also you want to pay special attention to any where there's creases or any kind of small cracks forming. On my boots, right around the ball of the foot here, there's a few like kind of small, very small cracks developing. So I want to make sure they get in there, remove any of the dirt, and keep that nice and clean. Okay, so I'm done with the brush here. And then lastly, if you have a soft toothbrush, and I would recommend a soft one, and you have any like areas you want to do any detailed cleaning, you can get in with that. So I like to use it kind of more on the welt area, because a lot of dust and dirt can kind of accumulate in there. You want to keep that stitching nice and clean. And then right around the back of the heel, hard to get in there with anything else, so use the toothbrush. And any areas where there's hard to get stitching, just get in there with the toothbrush. Okay, so now we're gonna go take the boot. I think it's pretty clean, and give it a rinse. So again, just using a little bit of warm water, I'm gonna rinse the boots off. You wanna give them a really good rinse, make sure you get all the soap off. Oh, look at that, you can see how dirty the water is. All right, so now that we've cleaned our boot, we're gonna have to set it aside for a good while. I usually let it dry overnight or 24 hours just to make sure the leather is 100% dry before you start putting any oils or that kind of thing on it. But luckily, I have a swap out already that I cleaned the other day. So we can go ahead and we're going to show you how to apply the Canadian Beeseal leather product onto this guy. So we'll just undo the inseam strap here. And for this, you can use brushes, you can kind of use whatever you want to apply. I like to use a rag here, so this is just a piece of a t-shirt, and You don't have to go too crazy on the Beeseal. You know, a little goes a long way, but we're just gonna pick up a little bit on this here, and you'll see right away how the leather is gonna darken up again. So just starting from the toe. Let's get a close-up here, Vinny. You can see right away, just absorbing, drinking up that Canadian Beeseal. Just making sure to get it into all the little cracks and crevices. Like I said, you don't have to use a ton of this stuff. Some people think that they need to drown their boots in oil, and that is simply not the case, because then your boots are just going to become kind of a floppy mess. So just go easy on it. You could always apply a little bit more. I like to apply a little bit, let it kind of set in, and then apply an additional layer if it needs it after, you know, after it's drunk the oil. One thing to keep in mind too, if you are applying a lot of the oil, just note that if there's a whole lot of excess, it's going to end up wiping off onto your pants. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to put too much, and just remember the first pair of jeans or pants that you wear with your boots after you've conditioned them may get a little bit of this oil transferred onto them. This stuff smells really good. What does this stuff smell like, Terry? Lemongrass?
Oh, yeah, lemongrass.
Yeah, it smells like lemongrass to me. It smells so good, it almost makes you hungry.
Got that tongue of goons.
I'll put a little bit on the back stay here. Again, you don't need to go super crazy on the shaft of the boot, just because it doesn't get as much action as the lower part, but you just want to make sure it's nicely hydrated so it doesn't dry out and crack. You can see here the beautiful kind of T-core leather. Personally, I really love the Horween Chrome XL leather. I think it's a beautiful leather. I know it's kind of got a cult following, but I also know, you know, some people think it's too pedestrian, a little too average. But I think it's just the perfect balance of functionality and beauty, and it's just so supple. It breaks in super nicely, and you know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you know, it's got to be horsehide, it's got to be shell cordovan, it's got to be this. But personally, for this boot, I like it the best in the Chrome XL, just because it breaks in so nicely and it becomes so soft, and it's just so comfortable to wear. This is my most comfortable pair of boots, and it's partially because of that great Horween Chrome XL leather. So at this point, I don't really worry too much about the details. If there's some small cracks, whatever that I can't get into, with the rag. I'm going to address those in a little bit with my little detail toothbrush, get into all the nooks and crannies. This is just for getting all the bigger spaces. Just make sure we got enough on the heel counter back here. And then one final pass on the vamp. This is really kind of the more important part of the boot, just because it gets a lot of dirt, a lot of scratches, a lot of action on the front of the boot here. So you just want to make sure you pay attention to that. And then lastly, I'm going to apply a little bit to the midsole here. If you do want to re-dye the midsole, if your midsole does need re-dyeing, I would skip this part because it's going to help prevent the dye from entering here. But I'm not going to re-dye. It doesn't look like I need to re-dye, so I'm just going to put a little bit here on the midsole. Get that nice and sealed. Darkens up a little bit. Can kind of skip this step if you like. It's not really gonna impact the longevity of the boot, but I just like the way it looks. Give the midsole a little bit of oil. And those heel stacks. Okay, great. All right, so there was a few areas that I couldn't really get into well with the rag. So now I'm gonna take a new toothbrush, a new clean, dry toothbrush, and just get a little bit of Beeseal on there, and then I'm just going to go around to kind of the welt here, get some in there. Make sure all the cracks and crevices are coated in a light coat of oil. Make sure it's waterproof, conditioned. And so these boots can last a long time. These boots I've had, I don't know, many years now. So long that I actually had them resold by Dr. Soul in Taiwan. Highly recommend them if you do have a pair of boots like this, or a different pair of Goodyear welt boots or stitch down boots. I had a great experience sending them to Dr. Soul, and they came back looking really nice. So I'm going to get into where the buckle here is. That's a kind of a tricky part. Make sure there's a little bit of oil all in there. And same on the other side. So I think that's more or less done. Again, you can let it sit for a few minutes, come back, see if it's kind of still dry in other places. You'll see it kind of absorbing into the leather, and if you want, you can go back and give it a second coat. I'm pretty happy with it the way it is right now. So I'm just going to take another rag, another clean rag here, and just going to give it kind of a wipe and wipe off any excess. This way you don't have a bunch of oil and wax on the inside of your jeans when you go to wear them for the first time. And then I will usually let them sit for a couple hours just to try to let things soak in. And that's pretty much it. It's not rocket science. You don't have to do this too often. But like I said, if you're someone who wears your boots really hard and you're in a lot of dirt and oil and mud, gasoline, you know, that kind of thing spilling on the boots, then you're gonna want to do it more often. Of course, at Tate Nyoko, we do sell the Canadian Beeseal. So if you're looking for a leather product to hydrate and waterproof your leather, I definitely recommend that. We are also using the Beeseal saddle soap. We don't currently stock this, but if you're interested, let us know down in the comments and we can totally get that in for you guys. I think that's gonna be it for today's episode. I hope you guys definitely try this at home. It's gonna help your boots and your shoes last a lot longer. Before we head out, don't forget, hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.